Have you ever seen yourself doing something you haven't done yet? Maya Collins didn't believe in glitches, not in life, not in technology, not in anything, until the moment her reflection hesitated. It was subtle, almost nothing, the kind of thing your brain tries to smooth over so you don't have to question reality. Maya stood in front of her bathroom mirror, one hand resting on the sink, her eyes locked on herself. She tilted her head slightly to the left. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Her reflection followed, but a second too late. Maya froze. Okay, no, she muttered under her breath, forcing out a small, nervous laugh. That's just lag, you're tired. She stepped back, blinked hard. The fluorescent light above her buzzed faintly, casting a dull, sterile glow over the cramped bathroom. Everything looked normal again. Too normal. She turned away from the mirror quickly, like ignoring it would somehow reset whatever just happened. Her apartment felt smaller now, quieter, like the walls were holding their breath. Maya wasn't the kind of person who spiraled. She didn't have time for that. At 27, she had built her entire life around control. Tight deadlines, predictable routines, clean edits. As a freelance video editor, she spent most of her days stitching together other people's stories. Nothing unexpected, nothing she couldn't rewind and fix. That's why this didn't make sense. She walked back into her living room, dropping into her chair in front of her laptop. The screen glowed with paused footage from a project she'd just started, a rush job that had come in earlier that day. Anonymous client. No real details, just a name attached to the payment, Ethan Ward, and a number that made her accept instantly, $15,000, for a simple edit. Too easy, she had thought at the time. Now, it didn't feel easy anymore. She hit play. The footage resumed, a static camera angle, slightly elevated like it had been placed high on a shelf. The frame showed a woman moving around an apartment. Maya leaned closer. Wait! Her stomach tightened. The woman looked familiar. Same hair, same build, same worn-out gray hoodie Maya had thrown on just hours ago. No, that's not... She paused the video. Zoomed in. Her chest went cold. It was her, not someone who looked like her. Not a trick of the light. It was her apartment, her furniture, her life, captured from an angle she had never seen before. Okay, think, she whispered, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Hidden camera? Prank? Deepfake? But none of it added up. She would have noticed a camera, and deepfakes didn't replicate environments like this, not down to the exact placement of a chipped mug on her desk or the faint scratch on her wall near the door. Then she saw the timestamp. Her breath caught. Tomorrow. The footage wasn't from earlier. It wasn't recorded. It hadn't happened yet. Maya slowly leaned back in her chair, her pulse beginning to pound in her ears. The room suddenly felt wrong, like she was sitting inside something that had already been decided. Her phone buzzed sharply against the desk. She flinched. A message. Free unknown number. She hesitated before opening it, then tapped. Finish the edit. Don't change anything. Watch closely. Maya stared at the screen. Watch closely? She repeated quietly. A chill crept up her spine. Against her better judgment, she pressed play again. In the footage, the version of her moved through the apartment with unsettling precision, like every step had already been mapped out. No hesitation, no randomness, just execution. Then the figure stopped, right in front of the mirror. Maya leaned forward again, heart hammering. On screen, her double tilted her head, slowly, deliberately, but instead of looking at her reflection, she turned, directly toward the camera. And then she smiled. Not a normal smile. Something off. Something that didn't belong. Maya's fingers trembled as she reached for the volume control. Say something, she whispered. The figure's lips moved. At first nothing, then faint, barely audible. Maya cranked the volume higher, leaning so close her forehead nearly touched the screen. The whisper sharpened, clear now, direct. You need to stop watching. Maya's blood ran cold, because she hadn't said that. Not yet. Turn it off. The words echoed in Maya's head, but her hands didn't move. Instead, her phone buzzed again. Sharp, immediate, like it had been waiting for that exact moment. She glanced down slowly. Same unknown number. You're behind schedule. A cold pressure settled in her chest. Behind schedule for what? She muttered, her voice thin. I just opened the file. No response. Of course. Maya swallowed hard and looked back at the screen. The paused frame still showed her double staring directly into the camera, into her. That same unnatural smile stretched across her face, frozen in place. It didn't feel like footage anymore. It felt like eye contact. Okay, no, this is explainable, Maya said, forcing logic back into her thoughts. Everything is. She reopened the editing timeline and started scrubbing through the footage frame by frame. At first, everything looked normal. Then, the details started slipping. A mug on her desk, slightly to the left in one frame, slightly to the right in another. The lighting outside her window, too dim for the supposed time. Shadows that didn't quite match the direction of the light source. Tiny inconsistencies, but consistent enough to feel intentional. Why would someone fake this? She whispered. Better question. Why go through this much effort just to mess with her? Her hands were already moving before she made the decision. She grabbed her phone and called Lena. The line rang twice. Hey, night owl! Lena's voice came through, casual, slightly amused. What's up? It's like midnight. Lena, Maya said quickly, her tone tight. I need you to come over. Pause. That got her attention. Okay, that didn't sound normal. What happened? I'll explain when you get here, just... Please. Another pause. Longer this time. All right, Lena said finally. Give me 20 minutes. Lena arrived in 15. She didn't knock, just let herself in with the spare key Maya had given her years ago. She stepped inside, scanning the room immediately. What's going on? She asked, kicking off her shoes. You sound like you just saw a ghost. Maya didn't answer. She just turned her laptop toward her. Watch. Lena raised an eyebrow but stepped closer. The footage played again from the beginning. For the first 30 seconds, Lena said nothing. Then she leaned in. Okay, she said slowly. That's weird. Weird? Maya snapped. That's me. I can see that. No, I mean, it's literally me. My apartment, my clothes, everything. Lena crossed her arms, eyes narrowing as she focused on the screen. Could be a deep fake, she said. Advanced compositing. AI's getting scary good. No, Maya cut in, shaking her head. Look closer. Lena did. And this time, she noticed. The inconsistencies, the details, the things that didn't quite line up. Her expression shifted. Okay, she said again, quieter now. That's not standard, Maya exhaled shakily. Right? Lena pulled up a metadata analyzer on her laptop. She scrolled through the file properties, expecting the usual timestamps and basic info. What is this? Lena muttered. It's layered, like encrypted within layers of metadata. Look at this. Someone really doesn't want us seeing what's behind the footage. Maya leaned in, eyes wide. Layers? You mean it's hiding something inside the video itself? Exactly, Lena said, fingers flying over the keyboard. Somebody didn't just send you a video, they sent a system, a file designed to, well, I don't know how far it goes, but it's manipulating more than just what you see. Maya shivered. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. You mean it's watching me? Lena didn't answer immediately. She just kept typing, digging deeper. Finally, she stopped and looked at Maya, her expression grim. There are hidden frames, single flashes of other things, other scenarios. Watch. Lena enhanced the footage. A flash frame appeared for a split second. Maya lying on the floor, motionless. Another, a shadowed figure standing just behind where she sits right now. Maya's pulse spiked. That's impossible. That hasn't happened yet. Lena shook her head slowly. Exactly, which is why I think you need to calm down, but also pay attention. The air in the apartment grew thick, almost suffocating. Maya's hands trembled. She had always prided herself on control over her work, her schedule, even her meals and sleep. But now, control felt like a joke. She swallowed, trying to steady herself. What do we do? Who even sent this? Lena's gaze hardened. The metadata says someone named Ethan Ward, but that could be fake. Whoever it is, they know you. They've studied you. This isn't random. Maya pressed her lips together, heart hammering in her chest. She wanted to deny it. She wanted to tell herself it was a joke, some kind of viral prank, but deep down, a part of her already knew it wasn't. She glanced at the laptop screen. The footage hadn't stopped. Her double in the video was still frozen in that unnatural, knowing smile. And then Lena froze. Maya followed her gaze to the screen. Through the reflection in a window frame captured in the footage, they saw it. Someone, standing in the apartment behind the camera. Lena whispered, almost too quiet to hear. They're here, right now. Maya felt her stomach drop. Her throat tightened. She wanted to scream, wanted to run. But her body was rooted to the spot. Her eyes darted toward the apartment entrance. Nothing. The room was empty, yet the feeling persisted. A presence, watching, waiting. Maya's breath quickened. Every instinct screamed at her. This isn't just a video. This isn't a prank. Something, or someone, was inside her life. And the next move was entirely out of her hands. Chapter 1. Complete with cliffhanger transition. Sets up the escalation in Chapter 2, where the conflict intensifies and the future footage begins influencing reality. If you're ready, I can continue with Chapter 2 next. Do you want me to go? Maya's chest heaved as she backed away from the laptop. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but the apartment felt like a cage. The shadows seemed to stretch, following her movements, creeping along the walls like living things. Lena! Maya's voice trembled. What do we do? We can't just sit here. Lena didn't answer immediately. Her eyes were glued to the screen, scanning every detail, every frame. She tapped rapidly on the keyboard. Then she froze, leaning back with a slow, horrified exhale. Maya, look at this. Maya leaned forward, squinting. On the timeline, new frames had appeared, real time, frames that weren't there a minute ago. What? What is that? Maya whispered. Lena swallowed hard. It's not just video, it's updating as we watch. Look, the sequence changed. The future is evolving in front of our eyes. Maya's stomach sank. Updating? In real time? Yes, and it's showing us things that might happen, or might make them happen. She didn't fully understand, didn't want to. But the moment she saw herself on screen, moving toward Lena, her entire body froze. No, that didn't happen, Maya whispered. Lena shook her head. It hasn't happened yet, but it's predicting you and it's influencing you. Look, repeat after me, step by step. Maya felt panic prickling her skin. No, I won't play their game. But the video was insidious. She saw herself raising her hand. She hadn't moved yet, and then, impossibly, her hand twitched. The laptop reflected her movements in perfect synchronization. This is impossible, Maya gasped. I'm not doing that. You are, Lena said quietly, her voice tight. The video is guiding you, showing you the path, and you're following it whether you want to or not. The apartment felt alive. The air thickened. Maya's heartbeat thundered in her ears. Every shadow, every flicker of light on the walls seemed calculated to keep her on edge. Then the next frame loaded. Maya froze, staring at the screen. It was her. Arguing with Lena. Words she hadn't spoken yet were coming out of her mouth in perfect alignment with the video. I didn't say that, Maya stammered, voice cracking. Watch carefully, Lena warned, her hands hovering over the keyboard. It's happening, exactly as it predicted. Seconds later, Maya repeated the words without thinking. Her voice was her own, but the script had been written for her. Her autonomy, fractured, manipulated. Fear clawed through her chest. Sweat prickled her temples. She wanted to stop, to close the laptop, to destroy everything. But she couldn't. Not yet. She needed answers. Another frame rendered. Maya looked on the screen. And her eyes widened in horror. She saw herself picking up a knife from the kitchen counter and stepping toward Lena. A scream lodged in her throat, but it never left her lips. Lena's hand shot out, trying to shut the laptop, but the footage updated again. New frames, faster, sharper. Every time she tried to intervene, the system adapted. Maya's fear escalated into desperation. "We have to stop it, now!" Lena grabbed her wrist. "No, stop moving. Any sudden motion could sink you with it." Maya's fingers trembled over the knife she hadn't even touched yet. Her pulse raced. Her reflection in the screen seemed almost alive. A distorted echo of herself, moving not when she moved, but predicting her every instinct. The apartment no longer felt safe. The shadows weren't just shadows, they were warnings, threats. A subtle force that whispered, "Follow the path or fail." Maya's mind raced. Questions swirled. Who was Ethan Ward? Why her? Why this footage? Why now? And then the final frame appeared. Her own face inches from the screen, pale, terrified, but smiling, and the words faint but unmistakable, "You can't stop it." Maya's breath caught. Lena's grip tightened. Every instinct screamed to run, but there was nowhere to go. The video had become a blueprint for her reality, and whatever came next would happen whether she wanted it to or not. Consequences begin to unfold as Maya confronts the truth. If you're ready, I can continue with Chapter 3 next. Do you want me to go? Maya's hands shook as she stared at the kitchen counter. The knife from the video sat there, gleaming under the dim overhead light. Her pulse thundered in her ears, and each beat louder than the last. She had told herself she wouldn't follow the footage. She wouldn't, but her body felt like it had a mind of its own. Every step she took toward the counter seemed synchronized, frame by frame, with what she had just seen. "Stop!" Lena whispered, her voice trembling. "Whatever you do, don't—" But Maya froze mid-step. Her eyes widened. She realized with a sickening clarity that the footage wasn't just predicting her actions, it was controlling them. She glanced back at the laptop. The video updated again. In the new frame, Lena was gone. The apartment was empty. The shadows stretched across the floor like a warning, unnatural and deliberate. Maya's stomach dropped. She wasn't imagining it. Lena had vanished. Her breath came in short, sharp gasps. She stumbled backward, heart hammering, every muscle on edge. The knife now felt impossibly heavy in her hand. Her reflection in the window, visible from the angle of the screen, mimicked her movements perfectly, but a fraction too late. A smirk she didn't feel crept across her mirrored face. Frantically, she dove back into the footage, scrolling through the hidden layers. She found a folder buried deep in the metadata, labeled simply, Her hands froze over the keyboard. Inside were dozens of clips. Different people, different apartments, same unnerving patterns. Each subject had been observed, manipulated, and tested. Most clips ended abruptly, unfinished, abandoned. Her heart raced as her eyes scanned the screen. Then she saw it. Her own apartment, but from hours, days, even weeks before. She had unknowingly been part of a system, a blueprint for someone else's experiment. She realized with a cold shiver, the footage wasn't malicious for entertainment. It wasn't just a warning. It was a test. And like the others, she had been a subject. Her hands trembled. The knife fell from her grip, clattering to the floor. Relief surged, but only for a moment, because the next frame updated again. Her heart lurched. Her reflection on the screen moved on its own, independent of her actions. It wasn't just a reflection anymore. It was a guide. Maya sank to the floor, wrapping her arms around her knees, trying to steady her racing thoughts. Her apartment, Once a safe haven now felt like a trap. Every object, every shadow, every subtle shift in light was part of a pattern she couldn't break. She took a deep breath and focused on the hidden folder. Clicking through the files, she noticed metadata tags she hadn't understood before. One line stood out: predictive behavioral control, active. The realization hit her like a punch to the stomach. This wasn't just surveillance. This wasn't just footage. It was a system designed to predict her behavior and nudge her toward outcomes she hadn't consciously chosen. Every frame she had watched, every reaction she had been logged and analyzed. Her mind raced. Lena's disappearance, the evolving video, the knife. It all made sense. The system wasn't finished with her. But then she found the last clip in the folder labeled Subject Final Test. She clicked. The screen filled with her own face, alone. Watching herself receive a new file from another unknown sender. The video paused. She realized this cycle wasn't over. The system was still active. Amaya's chest tightened. She thought of all the people she had seen in the folder, dozens of subjects, all manipulated, all tested, most broken by the experience. And she understood. Lena's temporary removal wasn't permanent, but the system was always watching, always calculating. Her instincts screamed at her to escape. But where could she go? The system had infiltrated her life. Every step she had taken, every move she made, it was all part of the experiment. She closed the laptop, powered it off. Silence. For a moment, the apartment felt like hers again. Days passed. Maya avoided editing jobs. Screens made her uneasy. She stayed away from the internet, from emails, from any source of digital intrusion. She didn't fully understand the system, but she knew enough. It had access to her actions, her environment, and her decisions. Lena eventually returned, appearing as if nothing had happened. She had no memory of the night the system had controlled events. Maya tried to explain, but without evidence, her words fell on deaf ears. Their friendship strained, but it endured. Maya kept the laptop off. She still had the payment, $15,000 untouched, but it felt like a bribe, a hollow reward. The system didn't stop. Reports in the news about predictive AI platforms, subtle behavior nudges, and behavioral modeling software began surfacing. Ethan Ward's company went public. Everything aligned with what she had experienced. Months later, sitting in a quiet cafe, Maya watched people scrolling on their phones, following patterns she now recognized. She felt a strange mix of fear and clarity. The system was out there. It hadn't stopped. Yes, but she had made a choice. The first real choice she could remember. Her phone buzzed. Unknown sender. A new message. "We'd like to run a follow-up test." Maya stared at it. Then deliberately she powered off her phone. She stood up, walked outside. For the first time in weeks, she didn't know what would happen next. Her life was fragile, but it was hers. Back in the apartment, the laptop flickered for a brief second. A new file appeared on the desktop. Maya didn't see it. She had chosen control over knowledge, uncertainty over manipulation, and for the first time, she was free. Maya sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the powered-off laptop. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet, but the weight of everything she had discovered pressed down on her chest like a physical force. She tried to breathe, tried to steady herself, but her mind refused to cooperate. She replayed the events in her head, the mirror that hesitated, the video that predicted her actions. Lena disappearing, the knife, the hidden folder full of other subjects, and the final clip showing her future self receiving yet another mysterious file. It all clicked into place now. The footage wasn't a glitch. It wasn't a prank. It was a behavioral prediction system, and she had been chosen as a subject. Maya went back through the files one last time, studying everything she could understand. She realized that the system, developed by Ethan Ward, a tech entrepreneur with access to advanced AI surveillance, was designed to observe, predict, and influence human behavior. It had started with simple observation. Cameras, metadata, internet activity, these subtle patterns of daily life, all feeding a predictive AI model. But the system evolved. It could now nudge actions, subtly influencing decisions by showing glimpses of future footage that the subject would then unknowingly follow. Every frame she had seen, every prediction, every step toward the knife had been part of the system testing her responses. Lena's temporary disappearance? A controlled variable. The system removed unpredictable elements to preserve its accuracy. The hidden folder labeled Original Subject confirmed the horrifying truth. Dozens of people had been monitored, manipulated, and tested before her. Most had failed, losing control of their lives entirely. Maya understood. She had survived because she had fought instinctively against the system. Every act of hesitation, every conscious choice not to follow the footage entirely had created small cracks in its control. Everything was logical now. The whispers, the flashes in the hidden frames, the evolving video, they weren't random. They were part of an experiment that had been running long before she even received the first file. Maya sank into the chair, exhaustion pulling at her. Relief and terror collided in her chest. Her hands shook, tears prickled the edges of her eyes. She had survived the test, but at what cost? She thought of Lena. Her friend had returned, unharmed physically, but unaware of what had happened. That reality, Lena's ignorance, was a kind of mercy. Yet Maya felt the lingering sting of isolation. Only she truly understood the danger. Only she carried the memory of the system's intrusion into her life. Maya's mind replayed the image of her reflection in the video, smiling before she had felt it, guiding her into decisions she had thought were her own. The emotional weight of knowing someone, or something, had been controlling her life, left a lingering unease. But alongside that fear, a spark of empowerment grew. For the first time in weeks, she realized she had chosen. She had closed the laptop, powered off her phone, walked away. She had taken back a measure of control. The following days were quiet. Maya avoided editing projects, screens, emails, anything that could be monitored. Lena returned to her normal routine, unaware of the experiment that had briefly stolen her from reality. Their friendship remained, but it was changed subtly. Maya couldn't fully trust what others didn't see. She reported her experience to authorities, but without the evidence, the story was dismissed as a tech rumor. The files, the system, and Ethan Ward's true methods had vanished digitally. No proof, no trail. Only Maya knew the full scope. The $15,000 payment remained untouched, a hollow reward for surviving an invisible test. The system, however, did not stop. In the news, predictive AI platforms rose in popularity, marketed as harmless behavioral tools. Subtle shifts in people's choices, nudged by unseen algorithms, were already happening globally. Maya could see patterns forming, small behaviors, repeated loops, predictable outcomes. The system had scaled, but she had survived its influence. 4. Final resolution moment. Months later, Maya sat in a quiet cafe, sipping coffee and observing strangers. Phones in hand, heads down, scrolling, or following predictable patterns. Her pulse slowed as she realized she could navigate this world with awareness now. The system was powerful, but she had learned to reclaim control. Her own phone buzzed. Unknown number. A new message. "We'd like to run a follow-up test." She stared at it for a long moment, then deliberately powered off the device. No reaction, no temptation, just choice. She stood, walked out into the street, and for the first time in weeks, acted without prediction, without influence. She felt the fragile thrill of autonomy, the simple human freedom of uncertainty. Back in her apartment, unnoticed by her, the laptop flickered on. A new file appeared, but Maya didn't see it. She had already stepped into a reality she could control. Her life was fragile, complicated, and imperfect, but it was hers. She walked into the city, uncertainty ahead, freedom in her steps, and the knowledge that survival didn't mean surrender. It meant reclaiming agency, no matter how small. And this time, she chose every step. Logical payoff, explained the predictive system, its purpose, and why events happened. Emotional payoff, Maya's fear, relief, and empowerment fully explored. Consequence payoff, show's aftermath, relationship strain, global implications, system continuation. Final resolution, Maya regains agency and autonomy. Story ends with closure. The full story is now expanded and complete, structured for maximum engagement and retention for a 30-minute YouTube video. If you want, I can also create a full detailed shot-by-shot YouTube storyboard for this story, showing visuals, pacing, and scene timing to maximize audience retention. Do you want me to do that next?